Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We have a very special guest today. Very excited, and I'm very honored to have our guest say yes to our invitation for an interview. Very well-rounded person in the Knights of Rizal and Rizalism. As you know, the Know Your Knights is an episode of the Musings of the Knights of Rizal, which basically wants to shrink the KOR universe and the Knights of Rizal to get to know some things about a knight from across the globe, and maybe learn from their experiences in the Knights of Rizal and learn from their philosophy and the guys that we will be better off than when we started. So without further ado, Sir Lucian, would you like to say your salutations to our viewers?
Yes, I wish everybody welcome on the site and wish you a good evening, Sir Alvin.
Uh, Sir Lucian, I'm sure our audience would be excited to learn about your personal background, your family, and your uh, other things that you would want to indulge us with your story.
Well, just briefly, I had a military career and I was assigned after my military studies, I was assigned to Germany. And in Germany, I met my wife, Filipina, who was working there as a midwife. So we got married. And then we went a couple of times in the 70s and 80s. We went a couple of times to the Philippines. And I knew who was Rizal because my wife explained me the big statue in Manila. And that was it. The first time I came back, or we came back to Belgium, was in the late 80s. And it started around 1990 to get involved about Rizal. I did a deeply study about Rizal, read a lot about Rizal, and got impressed of the person of Rizal. Since then, I have been busy with the Knights of Rizal. I joined the Knights of Rizal in 1994 in the Noli village. I don't know if you know the Noli village, but the Noli village is the little town of Wilhelmsveld in the neighborhood of Heidelberg. And I was dubbed the Knight of Rizal in 94, and then I became KOR, KCR, KGOR, I think at 2001, 2002 in Orlando, International Assembly. So I have been a chapter commander here in Belgium, and later on I became for some time a deputy regional commander in Europe.
So now, sir, you have been in the Belgian army.
Yes.
And been retired for 10 years now.
Yes.
Anything you like to do for fun now that you're been retired for 10 years?
Well, to be honest, I always say I don't have plenty of time, which is right because I'm busy with everything. I go cycling, I go running, go swimming, walking together with my wife, and I read a lot of books. So I have a big library about Rizal, I have a library about the Philippines. So most of the time, I'm reading books about Rizal or the Philippines.
Sir, you did say you do read a lot of books. And what was the last book you read?
Well, the last book I read was the new book which came up from Sir Ricky Sadiosa, Jose Rizal 2020, Rizal's Travels. It's a marvelous book. It's a coffee table book, 512 pages long, hundreds of pictures. And if you have the book and you read the book, you will be able to know what Rizal has done during his life. I mean, what places did he visit? It's a marvelous book. I would like to advise everybody to get hold of the book.
I heard that the book is very heavy as well.
It's 2.1 kilo.
It's like you can also use it for strengthening your muscles.
Yes, yes, if you wish.
In the gym. But kidding aside, sir, if you I know you did say you read the book. Is there something, sir, if you had the chance, you would insert on the book from your point of view that the book might be lacking?
You mean the last book?
Sir Ricky Enrique's book,
Okay,
sir. Is there any in your mind? Is there any addition or addendum that you, if you could, do for the book to be better? I know you do like the book and you recommend it.
Yes. At the moment, I didn't think about this, but I'm sure, or I know that Ricky is thinking about a second edition of the book. So I was in contact before the book came on the market with Sir Ricky. So I think he will come back to me and we will talk about it. If something is missing, what he can add in the book.
Very nice. We'll be surely looking forward to that journey. I know that Sir Enrique spent 5 years of his life on the book, and I'm pretty sure that it's filled with useful information, not only for the Knights of Rizal, but for Filipinos and those Filipino-loving people all over the world.
Yeah.
Sir, in Belgium, sir, is that your nationality? What's your ethnicity?
I'm in Belgium. So I'm a Belgian. After military studies, the army sent me to Germany. And then I stayed 10 years in the Belgian army in Germany. Then I was assigned to work in the NATO headquarters. So the last 20 years of my career, I stayed in the NATO headquarters in different countries, Belgium, France, Holland, and Germany again. And I was very lucky because in 1998, I was assigned, in 1993, I was assigned to work in Heidelberg. Can you imagine? Heidelberg, the town of Rizal.
Yes. Is there talking about your army experience? I was also fortunate enough to interview Dr. Calara,
Yeah.
and the one that wrote about you, and he mentioned that I think when you were in Afghanistan, you were giving books away, Rizal books away to Filipino military people in Afghanistan. Is that true, sir? And can you expound on that?
Well, it's not to soldiers. You know, I was assigned to go to on operational duty in Afghanistan. And the Americans were there as well, of course, and they had the PX. So we needed to go regularly to the PX because we need to clean our teeth. We need some other things, shoe brush, and so on and so on. And the first time I entered the shop, there was a lady with black hair there and a little bit brown skin. There were a lot of people in the PX, so I just bought my things, said goodbye, and sometime later I went back. I was almost alone in the store, and I asked her, "May I ask you something?" I asked her, "Where are you coming from?" And she said, "I'm from the Philippines." I said, "What the hell are you doing here in war region?" as a Filipina. And she said, I earn much more money here than I can ever earn somewhere else. So then I talked to her and we had a coffee afterwards, and I asked her about Rizal and Noli and Tili. And she told me, yes, I know the Noli, but I don't know anything about the Fili, or just a little bit about the Fili. Before I started off to Afghanistan, I copied some books, and I had the small book about Fili and Noli. So I gave her the Fili and told her, well, here you have the Noli, here you have the Fili, so you can read something about the story in the Fili. She was quite happy.
Very nice. Very nice. Now, sir, how does your family feel about your, as Dr. Calairo was saying, obsession with Rizal? How does your wife feel about that?
Well, it's like you said, it started as a hobby, then it became a passion, and then it became an obsession, because I'm working on a daily basis on Rizal. And from time to time, my wife tells me, why don't you go to sleep with your Rizal books? But she's happy with it. My family know what I'm doing, and they know when we go to visit a place, the first question my family is asking, was he also there? Meaning Rizal.
Yeah.
Because they know when I go to visit something on vacation, it's in connection with Rizal. And if you are in the Philippines, well, they know it. It's not a vacation. When I'm in the Philippines, it's going from one place to another place. It's all connected to Rizal.
Now, sir, your collection of Rizaliana materials and documents, how big is your collection, sir?
I don't know exactly, but I think from Rizaliana 300 plus books, and
300 plus. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and Filipiniana, I think 150, 200 or something like this. So once I was in the Philippines and I bought all the books which were available at the National Historical Institute, which is now the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, where you can buy a lot of books about the Philippines, and of course books about Rizal.
Yes. Now, Sir Mathausen, Carlo, told me about your clock on the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Can you, those viewers who don't know what I'm talking about, can you expound on that?
Yes, I know. So I have a lot of visitors, Knights of Rizal, and people coming from the States or coming from the Philippines. If they know me, they ask if they are in Belgium to bring them around. They can always stay in our house. So I'm happy to do that. And they are happy that they have a local guide. When I went to the Philippines for an international assembly, I think it was 2011, it's the same. We got a present, and it was a present, it was a clock from Manila Hotel. The assembly took place in Manila Hotel. So the clock is now in my study, my Rizal room. And what people don't know, well, I will tell you. When we go upstairs and they go to my papers, want to see my papers, my books, and so on, they see the clock. And I said, this is the clock, my Rizal clock. And I said, what's the meaning of this? I said, have a look at the clock. What's that? I said, look at the time. The clock stopped at 3 minutes past 7. I said, do you know when Rizal died? At 3 minutes past 7. I tell them the clock stopped. Then they ask me, how is this possible? Then I take the clock, and behind the clock is the battery. So I took out the battery and put the clock at 3 minutes past 7.
Very nice. Sir, you did mention that you as a Rizalist and pretty well known. A book was written about you, the Belgian Rizalist by Dr. Calero.
Yes.
Um, so people look uh, forward to meeting you and interviewing you like I did. Uh, what was the most memorable guest that you had? Would you care to share one or two stories about a guest that was memorable for you?
The most important persons we had in our house was the family of Rizal. So the family of Rizal, the nephew and, and his wife and his sister, they came to visit us in Belgium for 1 week. So we toured with them in Belgium, in Holland. We went to Germany with them. We brought them around in Germany, Heidelberg, Wilhelmsveld. And there we make the same tour as Rizal did on the River Rhine. So you know that Rizal made the River Rhine tour from Mannheim. And then he took the boat to Bonn, back and forth. So we did the same, not back and forth, but just from Mainz to Bonn. So those were, then we had another family member of Rizal who came to our place a couple of times. And we also toured with her in Germany, made the same tour on the Rhine and so on. And for the rest, yeah, every time we have visitors, I bring them around and they are happy. And I am happy that they can stay in our house and that we can talk about Rizal.
Now, you did say the family of Rizal. Was that the Maria Rizal lineage?
No,
Or are
no.
they based from Manila? This family of Rizal. I know you did say two
Yes.
times.
They are from the Saturnina family. So the oldest child.
Did they talk about Saturnina joining the Katipunan?
Yes, yes. They are very proud that she joined the Katipunan. And we have been talking a lot, and we had a lot of fun, of course, as well. And it was impressive, me as a Belgian, a Knight of Rizal, being able to have descendants of the Rizal family in my house. They stayed here for a whole week. And can you imagine when we went later on to the Philippines? We went to the Philippines. I informed them we will come to the Philippines for about 1 month. So I received a message back in which he said, Lucien, your sleeping room is ready. So we had to stay in his house. So we planned to stay in the Philippines for 1 month. And at the end, we stayed there for almost 2 months. And I was ashamed that we stayed for 2 months.
One interviewee also said that you know more about Rizal than some other Filipinos, even historians. How do you feel about that?
Well, maybe I think it's a little bit exaggerated, but it's true. I know a lot about Rizal because when I was stationed in Belgium, in the military headquarters in Brussels, I took the train. It took me 2 hours travels in the morning, 2 hours travels in the evening. So I always had Rizal books with me. So his letters, all his letters, a lot of his diaries, a lot of books. And I wasn't able to read 4 hours a day on Rizal during my travel to my work. So that was my advantage. And through that, I got quite knowledgeable about the person of Jose Rizal.
So maybe that's a tip for our commuters, especially when we have EDSA traffic. Bring a book of Knights of Rizal and be like Sir Lucian. While you're traveling, read about Rizal.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
it's better to read something about Rizal than to sleep or to read your newspaper or to just look through the window or playing cards in the train.
Now, sir, what is the reason behind the obsession with Rizal? What moved you? What touched your heart about Rizal that you wanted to learn about him?
Well, when I started my research, Rizal was in 1990. And then I started to read books about Rizal. And I was impressed about the way how Rizal was. So Rizal was intelligent. We all know this. You just look at his legacy of works and his letters that he left us. But Rizal also was an all-round man. He was a doctor. He was a poet. He wrote novels. He was a painter. He was a sculptor, and many things more. He was a polyglot. He was an excellent sportsman, like fencing and shooting. That's what he wrote in his diaries. He went to the gym. He played chess. So it was a man from every sass. But what impressed me the most was the way how he lived. Rizal did not live his life. He lived for his country, for the Filipino people and for the Filipino youth, who he encouraged to study and to live a decent life and the love of the motherland. When he was in Madrid, he inspired the other Filipinos to learn. And what he wrote in Solidaridad, he told the Filipinos what they had to do. So in Madrid, for instance, he told the Filipinos, you should learn very well because your parents give you the chance to come to Madrid and to study. So you should study. There were some Filipinos in Madrid who, well, they forgot to study. They liked nightlife, so they went out night, dancing, drinking, sleeping during the day. Rizal was not very happy with this, and he told them. But Rizal had a mission in Europe, so it's not as most of the people think that Rizal came to Europe to finish his studies. And yes, he came to Europe to finish his studies, but he had another background in Europe. And that's why Rizal did not live his life, but he lived the life for the Philippines.
In Rizal's journey in Europe, um, he became very close to European Dr. Blumentritt.
Yes.
How would you characterize the relationship between the two as maybe indicative of relationship of the Philippines with other non-Filipino Rizalists or members of the Knights of Rizal?
Well, as you know, Rizal's best friend in Europe was Blumentritt. If you remember, Rizal wrote his first letter to Blumentritt while he was in Heidelberg in 1886. And he wrote his last letter to Blumentritt the 29th of December, 1896, so the day before he got shot. It was Blumentritt who inspired Rizal, and on the other hand, it was Rizal who inspired Blumentritt to get more involved in Philippine history. Although Blumentritt had written already a lot of books about the Philippines before he met Rizal. And let's say Rizal told Blumentritt, I know you are a very Catholic person. I know you love Spain. But he said, if you would have been in the Philippines and expired what I have seen in the Philippines, you would change your mind. And definitely afterwards, Blumentritt changed his mind about Spain and the clergy in the Philippines.